time with a lot of first-time producers. Jade walked to our office sometime last year. I had never met Jade, who was a first-time producer. So I did not have to backlog to, in reference to what you're saying, I did not have to backlog to say, oh no, Jade, you're a first time producer. I doubt your abilities. I doubt on the things that you can, I doubt on what you can do. And I'm at a level of merging her with a known producer or a known producer's movie just to see how it works. I worked solely with Jade on a level of faith that her movie individually would do well, seeing that her movie had checked off on everything we had looked at: the commercial viability, the technicals, looking at it, the technicals, looking at the stars, looking at the story, and looking at the plot of the movie. So, in essence, I'm saying there's a huge level of encouragement on the part of the Nigerian system as against the presumptions, as you would say, of what is happening in the UK. This thing slightly because our own climate is different, so we do not have to go through that process of merge. So what your distributor will do, and which is what we always encourage, is that you work with your distributor from your script level. Because from a script level, if you were working with a distributor, there are lots of checks that would have come in. Your distributor would have looked at your story and said to you, I think for commercial reasons, this is what you need to do. So when you get off to your trailer, you would look at it and say, from a commercial perspective, this would not work. Because I say to any producer, your first two marketing tools are your trailers and your poster. So for me as a concern, a concern as a distributor is your trailer. Unfortunately for us, why we still have those things to such trailers that you have seen, that is the duty of working with your distributor from a script level. So that's my point most times is the producers are very set. Everybody's product is the best. So the producers are often very set, saying, you know, no, I've done a lot of tests. We think this is okay. And you leave it off. So do not think there had not been certain level of recommendations or advice that had gone on to such movies, to such trailers that you have seen. That is the duty of working with your distributor from a script level. So that's my encouragement to everyone as producers. If you have a movie and you think you want to put it up for cinemas, firstly, I think you should approach a distributor depending on who you want to work with and work with them from a script level, finally to the exhibition level.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jerry CJ. I'm the secretary of MCOIN. Now, there seemed to be a huge preference for comedy by distributors, and this makes producers to go on and force comedy. Do we not think that if exhibitors continue to, if you go, you were talking about involving the distributors at the level of the script. I know that if I come to you, you will tell me that what sells now is comedy. Do you not think that give to the producer, which is somewhere about 30%, yet you want the producer to come up with a very good film? Added to that, the producer is also the one that will do the marketing. Does distribution not go with marketing? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was a good question as well. I think I'll let my colleague Okwe answer this.
Okay.
Yes, it's
Very well. And interesting. The gentleman will be around. The gentleman will be around, to take some of your questions. There are two elements to that question. Okwe will address, the first type of film. Sorry.
okay. Thanks. Very good question. I would have been surprised if we didn't get that question. And again, so I'll just go back to what I'd said initially. You know, at the end of the day, it's a commercial. A lot of times, you cannot ignore the commercial aspect of this business.
Okay.
Yes, he's very experienced in this.
I really apologize. Very well and interesting. The gentleman will be around. The gentleman will be around, to take some of your questions. There are two elements to that question. Where we address, the first type of film. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Very good question. I would have been surprised if we didn't get that question. And again, so I'll just go back to what I'd said initially. You know, at the end of the day, it's a commercial. A lot of time, actually been the reality the last 2 years. So record of films in the last same have been comedies. Does that mean you must do comedy? No. However, you need to be mindful that if you're doing anything else, then you need to really new filmmakers. And to be honest with you, it's really just been a labor of love. It's not made any money at the end of the day. Okay, so the reality is still that, the records that we're talking about, that we're gathering together, we can safely tell you that comedy has done really well. However, I think that we're also at a point, and now this is purely just a personal opinion, where the market is yearning for more. Because, like Rosanna said, all industries, the developmental phases in industry. Years ago, hundreds of years ago in Nollywood as well, slapstick was what made Nollywood, if you go and check the history. So I think that we're also at that phase. Even in the Bollywood as well, you had before Indian movies were all about people dancing in the streets, and that's what it was. Okay, but that's not what it is today. So it's developed over time. So if your distributor is telling you comedy is what sells, it's just telling you this is the historical and that's the reality. If you have to have something special, that's the reality. It's not my personal opinion, that's the reality of what happens. Okay, so I don't think you can really hold anybody, for telling you that, because that's really what happens. I mean, there are few films coming out towards the end of the year that are not comedy. And to be honest with you, I'm sure everybody on this table is really hopeful. I don't want to mention any names, but everybody is hopeful that those films will do well. And they're not comedy, and they're Nollywood films. Good budget, good story, good production from what we've heard. So at the end of the day, it's in all our interests that the industry develops. I think one of the things that, just in closing, we need to always remember that it is all in our interest. If we don't have good content as exhibitors, we have no business at the end of the day. So it's in our interest that we have good content that opens up, brings up a different crowd. I mean, we see what's happening in Hollywood, Crazy Rich Asians, not a typical sort of film, but it's started to attract, its diversity has created. I mean, this year, Crazy Rich Asians, Black Panther, examples of diversity, not the norm. That has, globally, box office is about 12% above last year, and you can point it to these films. So it is in our interest as well, locally, as a local industry, that other films within Nollywood that are not comedy do well. But at the end of the day, it's a business. If it's not doing well, we have to drop it. That's the sad, the sad truth of it. Okay, Kenneth will answer that.
Can I just add to what Okwe has said? When we look at data, what we're also proposing to do is the data we're collecting is also for Hollywood. And currently, when you look at Hollywood data, the highest selling movies are actually action movies. Second highest selling movies are romantic comedies. At present in Nigeria, we do not do action movies that are on a level with Hollywood movies. But guess what? The minute we start doing those kind of movies, when we come to such conferences like this, we will not be asking the question, is comedy selling? We will be asking the question, what kind of action movies are we buying? And that's the reality of the business. Right now, we are not able to produce that level of action in our Nollywood movies. But we will. And the minute we do, the genre will change. Because the data will tell us that people are probably gravitating towards action movies now. So for now, we're actually at the top end that we can actually afford to be on in terms of data. But sooner or later, we're going to move to another genre.
Okay, can I in 1 minute
Yeah.
the
So
marketing-
just
we cannot take apologize. I totally
okay. So in 1 minute, just the summation of the points that Okper and Mr. Patrick made. Um, yes, and the split. Okay. So we have a view. I have a view that even though they highlighted comedy in reference to your question and action movies, I would argue that comedy doesn't sell. Entertainment sells. And there's a big difference between just having comedy films and having films that are entertaining. People want to be entertained. People want to escape. And ultimately, that is our role. Our role is to create a platform that allow people to escape their realities and to give them a form of entertainment. And it just so happens that comedy or it be action or Mission Impossible, whatever it is entertainment that sells. And so what we do is, or what we'd like is that as we look to develop obviously more genres and to diversify, that even in those catalogs, that those are still entertaining. And like Michael said, there are a few films lined up for the rest of the year that are not comedy, and we're all looking very forward to how they play out in the box office. But what's important is that they are positioned as event films and that they are indeed entertaining. Now, to very quickly touch on your point about the split, I think that I speak for most exhibitors and distributors here when I say that Nollywood generally has a more favorable split than even Hollywood. The terms are relatively fixed these days. I would be honest and I would tell you that I am one of the very few championing that is broken, because we're in a capital society. I think that it should not be as regulated. But Nollywood does have more favorable terms on average than Hollywood does. I think if it's okay for me to share, it typically starts at 50-50, at least between the exhibitors and the distributors. So whatever your deal is with your distributor, we may not be privy to, but from the distributors and the exhibitors' relationship, is 50-50 post-imputed taxes. Also, you spoke about marketing, I believe. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, not all films are the same. Whether it be Nollywood or Hollywood, I'm sure that you can reference a lot of Hollywood films that have significantly more marketing spend and budgets than others. And exactly the same thing applies in Hollywood. Regardless of the way, no matter how much we want to help, from an exhibitor's point of view, our role isn't primarily marketing as much as it is for distributors. But I think I speak for every distributor here, whether it be Film One, ourselves, or Silverbird, or indeed Genesis. And I think actually a very good example of a very recent one would be, well, if I speak Hollywood specifically, would be like the Mission Impossible and Equalizer. I think it was very clear to the whole country that that movie was out. And I think those both films were Silverbird films, and they were very well marketed. But even when you take it down to Nollywood movies,